afternoon, everyone. My name is Michaela Fry. I am now the former MLA for the beautiful constituency of Brooks Medicine Hat, which we are proudly located in today. I have the distinct honor and privilege of being here with Premier Designate Danielle Smith, and I wanted to start off today by letting my former constituents know, and all of you, just how proud I have been to be able to serve Brooks Medicine Hat in whatever capacity I can. I will continue to advocate for Brooks Medicine Hat. I will continue to be a champion for this community, and I will continue to support Danielle Smith in any way that I can. We need strong representation in Brooks Medicine Hat. We need somebody who understands that rural Alberta needs to be treated fairly. We need someone who understands that Alberta needs a strong place in Confederation, and without a strong Alberta, there is no strong Canada. So I'm so proud, I'm so honored to introduce our Premier Designate and hopefully the next MLA for Brooks Medicine Hat, Danielle Smith.
Awesome. You're amazing. Thank you. Well, thank you, Michaela. It's been so amazing to get to know Michaela over the last number of weeks and months, and she is such a bright light in our movement and was such a strong voice in our caucus, as well as for the residents and riding of Brooks Medicine Hat. I am just delighted to have her endorsement to run in this area. And I guess here we are, starting another campaign just after the other one ended. But I must say that the support that I have from Michaela is very humbling, and I want to thank her for introducing me to so many great people working in the riding already to make sure that we keep it very strong UCP. We the main reason why I am so committed to running in a rural riding is I know that our rural ridings didn't feel like they had the strongest voice at the table during the last years of the COVID pandemic. And I hope this sends a signal not only to the residents of Brooks Medicine Hat, but to the residents of all rural Alberta, that their voice will be heard, it will be prominent, and it will be respected. I also want to make sure that people know that I intend to spend a lot of time down here in the riding. I see that we have some supporters who have put their issues on the table with me for literally years. And I spent a good deal of time this morning talking to Michaela and her board, reaching out to Reeve Dirksen and Reeve Hamilton, as well as the mayors of Medicine Hat and Brooks, to see if we could meet with their councils at an early date so that we're able to identify the issues that we might be able to act on very quickly. So with that, I would be happy to take any questions that you may have. I see my competitor is here as well, the Alberta Party leader, Barry Morishita. Very nice to see you, Barry. And I'd be happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Premier Designate. If anyone here has any questions for Michaela or the Premier Designate, if you could let us know your name and media outlet, please, before you ask. So go ahead. Yes, there's one on the side.
Good morning. You've talked a lot about the rural issues, the rural concerns. What's would your first priority be in addressing, and what are the concerns that you'd like to see addressed first?
There's a number. I know that every riding, especially in rural areas, have issues of highways and bridges and infrastructure that need to be addressed. The biggest issue that I hear is the need for the full twinning of Highway 3. It's quite dangerous when you look at the amount of traffic that we have on there with big industrial developments as well as manufactured homes trying to compete with farm equipment and farm machinery, especially in harvest. It's caused tragedies, and we have to make sure that that is corrected. So that would be one priority. The other area is the issue of linear assessment in rural Alberta, and it's not just a problem for Cypress County and for Newell. It's also a problem, I think, that is province-wide because of a moratorium on taxes being paid by new developments. So if we can resolve that issue in this area, I think we can resolve it across the province, especially since we have such robust revenues coming in from oil and gas. Our municipalities should not be the ones shouldering an unfair burden of that austerity. So I think that would be one area that we would want to address. And also, we know that we have got a severe mental health, homelessness and addiction problem that is, we see it prominently in the big cities, but we also are seeing it in Medicine Hat. I was deeply saddened to learn today that our constituency assistant has to keep naloxone kits in her office and has had to use them because of the volume of people who are in distress. And so we have to make sure that we're giving an appropriate amount of support and have a robust detox program in the Medicine Hat area, and also support in Brooks, so that we can help those who are in distress get into a pathway so that they can find treatment. Those would be the first issues that would come to mind for me.
And sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. Alex McQuaig, Western producer.
Oh, hey, Alex.
You mentioned quite a few there, but what about oil and gas cleanups, unpaid taxes, unpaid assessments, as well as rural police? And a lot of the mayors and reeves in this area are satisfied with the RCMP. What would you like to see in the future for policing in this region?
Let me answer the last one first. With an Alberta Provincial Police, part of the vision I have is that we need to have a new force trained with the modern realities of policing. That the bulk of calls these days are mental health and addiction calls, and I think every community has been grappling with that. But I think that that's where we can begin with an Alberta Provincial Police, is an augmentation to our current policing structure, properly trained in how we can deal with those kinds of calls, so we can seamlessly connect those who are facing distress or perhaps even committing crimes to support their addiction with a kind of treatment facility that will allow for them to get into recovery, as well as seamlessly allow them to also get back out into the community so that they can get on with independent lives. So I think that begins with an Alberta Provincial Police, and I'm looking forward to working with municipalities to demonstrate the value of that as an augmentation to the existing force. And I'm hopeful that we'll be able to also demonstrate the value of having local policing so that we can ultimately cancel the RCMP contract. I know we have a little bit more work to do to get buy-in from our municipalities on that, but I think that when we are able to demonstrate that we will get higher value, better policing, and it won't cost municipalities anymore, I expect that we'll be able to get that buy-in. On the issue of unpaid taxes, this was an issue I had been spending quite a bit of time on prior to entering politics. And there's a concept that I was advocating for of delivering a royalty credit for well site cleanup. We have well sites that have gone back to the 1960s without being cleaned up. They are being repackaged up with new assets, and the liability keeps on getting pushed forward. So I think we need to, now that we've got a new percentage amount of mandatory cleanup coming in, I think we need to also provide that additional assistance with a credit to ensure that we're doing the full well site cleanup. But if we do that, then we can also use that as a bit of a lever to make sure that taxes get paid, to make sure that land leases get paid, because it's created not only, I think the last number I saw was somewhere in the order of $250 million worth of unpaid taxes, and probably an equivalent amount of unpaid landowner leases. We have to make sure that we're correcting that problem, because once again, back to the original point, the province is benefiting greatly from the surge in oil and gas revenues, as well as the surge in royalties, and we can't be having our municipalities disproportionately disadvantaged. Thanks, Alex.
Gentleman from CTV for one question, one follow-up.
Yeah, Sean Marks, CTV News.
Hi, Sean.
Hi, Premier Designate. I have some questions for yourself. So I'm just curious, how do you feel you can still be a good MLA for here in Brooks, Medicine Hat, despite living about 3 hours away in High River and also spending a lot of your time in Edmonton as well?
I think people will have seen from when I was leader before, as well as the kind of campaign that I have run. I'm prepared to travel a lot and be in communities a lot and do town halls a lot and reach out a lot. And so I know that because I have that work ethic, that people will be able to have full access to me. I will be advocating for their issues. And what I love about the diversity of this riding is it's very similar to the constituency that I do live in, Livingston-Macleod. When you look at the combination of feedlots and and as well as processing plants for beef, as well as farming, as well as greenhouses down here. I'm really looking forward to visiting some of those. Oil and gas development, having a mixture of having large municipalities as well as rural communities, the infrastructure issues. The interesting part about a riding that is as diverse as this is that there are many other rural ridings that share the same issues. So if we can solve some of the issues here, I think we'll be able to solve them for all the municipalities. So I feel very confident that I'll be able to represent this riding well.
Awesome. Now, you've also suggested that you will call a by-election here for Brooks Medicine Hat, but we haven't heard anything about Calgary Elbow as of yet. Now, they've been without an MLA since Doug Schweitzer resigned at the end of August. Now, is there a potential you will announce a by-election for there? And if not, why?
No, I won't. And part of the reason for that is that there has been a convention that when a leader is chosen who does not have a seat, there's an expectation that she will seek a seat at an early opportunity. So I think that the exception can be made for this by-election, but there is also a convention as well that if you're within a year of having a general election, that you don't need to call by-elections and others. There may be other candidates who are also stepping away, and so I think that rather than have a rolling series of by-elections, we may as well just stick with the convention of having the adjacent MLA take care of the issues in the riding, and we'll stick with the fixed election date of May the 29th.
Thank you. We have the gentleman from Medicine Hat News.
Hi, Danielle. My name's James Tubb.
Hi.
Medicine Hat City and the private sector has hydrogen and CO2 projects on the go to address the carbon levy. You've said you'll re-challenge carbon tax in court. Should the work continue here amidst the uncertainty?
Absolutely, the work should continue. I want to draw a distinction between the two different types of levies. We already have a levy on large industrial operations that go into a special fund that fund innovation, and there's widespread support in the industry to continue that approach so that we have the kind of innovation you're talking about with carbon capture, as well as other carbon technology, as well as the hydrogen economy that is building out. I'm very excited about that. We've got hubs that are developing all over the province, and it's wonderful to have a hub developing down here as well. The issue with the carbon tax on retail consumers is that there's no way for them to be able to avoid that tax because 90% of our power grid is fueled by natural gas, and almost all of our home heating is fueled by natural gas. And the cost associated with trying to switch away from that is extraordinary. I mean, we've seen already a spike in power bills, and we've seen unaffordable spike in heating bills that happen in the winter months of the year. It is creating real hardship for our seniors and for those on fixed incomes. So it's going to be a priority for us to address that. But with the NDP Liberal coalition in Ottawa voting to triple the carbon tax in the face of what is already being demonstrated to be a true hardship for the most vulnerable, we have no choice but to re-challenge the retail carbon tax in court. And I think there's a lot of misconception. I think there's the way the courts and legislatures work. It's not like double jeopardy that if the Supreme Court makes a decision, you can never challenge it again. If there's new information that would change the argument, we can relitigate. And I think there's a lot of things that have changed in the last couple of years with the war in Ukraine, creating insecurity of supply, which has caused a spike in hydrocarbon fuels across the world and creating this affordability crisis. It can be destabilizing if we don't address that. So I'm committed to continuing forward on the technological advances, which I know will make Alberta a leader in reducing overall emissions here and globally, but we're not going to be punishing. We can't be punishing our retail consumers, especially those who can least afford to pay.
Follow-up? Has there been a decision yet on MLA Drew Barnes? And if not, when will that come on welcoming him back to the UCP?
I'm very hopeful, and I've expressed that to my caucus, that I'm very hopeful that we can welcome Drew Barnes back into the UCP family. We are the United Conservative Party, after all, and there were a lot of divisions and a lot of hurt feelings that took place over the last 3.5 years. But if we can repair some of those hurt feelings within our caucus, I think we need to be extending a hand to our friend Drew Barnes to come back in. I haven't had a chance to meet with him yet. I will be meeting with him today. And as we work on repairing those relationships, I'm very hopeful that our caucus will invite him back in.
And we have Chat Medicine Hat for, or Chat TV for one question to follow up.
Hi, I'm Aiden Bolsgard.
Hi, Aiden.
I have just one more general question for you. It's been a long time since this riding has had the potential of having a high-profile MLA like yourself. I would just like to get your opinion on how you would feel to step into a role like that in a region that would be looking for it.
I know how important it is. The rural ridings, I love them because they are so diverse. They have a lot of different interests. There's a lot of representation at municipal level as well as at the school board level. I know it takes a lot of work to make sure that every community feels heard, but I'm also accustomed to representing a rural riding as I did before with the riding of Highwood, so I know what I'm in for. And I've been saddened to hear from my friends down here that Medicine Hat sometimes feels like the forgotten corner. I've visited here many times, and every time I come down, I say, you are not forgotten by me. And I hope that my commitment to the constituency is demonstrated by the fact that I want to run and represent it and make sure that the issues here receive top priority. I must give Michaela credit, though, as well, because one of the long-standing issues in Medicine Hat was the lack of secure funding for HALO, which is such an important service on when you're facing a potential tragedy on the highways, knowing that you have a service close by that can take you to a nearest medical facility. I'm very pleased at the work she did in securing a 5-year funding arrangement. We need to make that permanent, though. It is an essential part of our healthcare system, and so I'm going to continue on with some of the work that Michaela has already started and continue to seek her advice on how we can advance some of those things.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Aidan. All right, thanks, everyone.